Hello, welcome to our third Bible study on individual responsibility to honor and support family leadership, focusing on an example from the call of Abraham Sarah, Module 4, Session 14 of Living in the Image of God. I am Goodluck of Fable. We welcome you to this Bible study brought to you by Banking Blessings Ministry.
Hello, I'm Tochukwu Chiobi.
And I am Ijoma Tochiobi.
We will see that God spoke to Abraham and relied on his leadership and seamless communication with Sarah to give direction to Abraham-Sarah union and make promises and receive commitments from the union.
God creates every person to represent Him in interactions with others.
To be for others what God will be for them if He live with us in human form.
He provides resources to empower every person to perform the responsibility.
Also, He blesses those that do.
Our program seeks to understand the meaning of living in the image of God, resources that God has provided to guide us, and human responsibilities and benefits of living in the image of God. Let's dive right into learn, test, and share from God's message. This study continues the series to understand the individual responsibility regarding family leadership. The series is based on Bible examples of husband-wife interactions. We started the series with a discussion of the Shunammite couple. The Shunammite couple was blessed abundantly through their honor and support for family leadership. The wife honored and supported the husband as overall leader of the household. The husband supported the wife as spiritual gateway of the family and leader in specific matters. We continue the study with a discussion of Adam and Eve. The account of the creation of Adam and Eve showed that God created marriage to combine a man and woman to form a union of seamless complements that is adequate for the mission of representing Him among all creation. He created the man first, but found him inadequate. Then He created woman as comparable companion and helper from within. We will continue the study with a discussion of the Abraham-Sarah union. We will discuss Abraham-Sarah union in a 4-part sub-series in order to focus enough on the details. In part 1 of the 4 parts, we discuss the call of Abraham-Sarah. There we see that God called Abraham-Sarah union by speaking to Abraham. In doing so, He relied on Abraham's leadership of the union and seamless communication with Sarah.
In part 2 of the sub-series, we discuss Abraham-Sarah interactions with their maidservant, Hagar.
The interactions show Abraham-Sarah trying to address childlessness by having a child through Hagar.
They were successful, but the attempt caused serious problems for them that required calling on the strength of their union.
In part 3 of the Abraham-Sarah sub-series, we discuss God's blessing for Abraham-Sarah.
To see that husband-wife blessing comes as a promise revealed to one.
To be fulfilled for the union as one. In part 4, we discuss Abraham-Sarah interactions regarding the challenge of Ishmael.
There we see that the separation of Ishmael from Isaac was a direction to Sarah that God urged Abraham to implement.
Sarah was the custodian of the information and Abraham implemented the directive as head of household.
Also, we learn about timely and permanent resolution of a husband-wife conflict and selecting an opportunity from several options.
After Abraham Sarah, the series continues with a discussion of Isaac and Rebekah and Mary and Joseph.
Let us begin with the call of Abraham Sarah. God spoke to Abraham regarding a mission and a promise for Abraham-Sarah union. He gave directions to Abraham, spoke promises to him, and received commitment from him. Every aspect of the interactions shows that the mission and promise are for Abraham-Sarah as a union. God relied on Abraham's leadership of the union and seamless communication with Sarah to ensure that Abraham-Sarah shared the information and commitments seamlessly. God spoke to Abraham several times during the period of their relocation from Haran to Canaan. First, he spoke to Abraham in Haran. His name was Abram at that time. God told Abraham to leave Haran, his fatherland, and move to another land that he would show Abraham later. He promised Abraham a great expansion of his offspring and blessing for all people through his offspring. The directive and promise could only be fulfilled for Abraham-Sarah as a union, but were spoken to Abraham as if he was a lone person. Let us read from Genesis chapter 12 verses 1 through 3.
Genesis chapter 12 verse 1. The Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people and your father's household to the land I will show you."
Verse 2. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing.
Verse 3. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.
These verses document one directive and two promises for Abraham, Sarah as a union, which God spoke to Abraham as if he was a lone person.
God spoke to Abraham again after Lot and Abraham separated.
He showed Abraham the land of promise and reiterated the promise of a great expansion of his offspring.
Promised land and promise of offspring expansion are for Abraham Sarah as a union.
God spoke the promises to Abraham on behalf of Abraham Sarah.
Let us read from Genesis chapter 13 verse 14 to 16.
Genesis chapter 13 verse 14. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had parted from him, "Look around from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted." In these verses, your offspring means Abraham-Sarah offspring. God spoke to Abraham regarding promises for Abraham-Sarah union. Again, God spoke to Abraham in a vision to clarify his promise. He explained that the promise will be fulfilled through a son that will be Abraham's flesh and blood. He reiterated his promise of a great offspring expansion. God's promise regarding Abraham's offspring is a promise to Abraham-Sarah union, spoken to Abraham on behalf of the union. Let us read selections from Genesis chapter 15, verses 1 through 20.
Genesis chapter 15 verse 4. Then the word of the Lord came to him, "This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your her.
Verse 5. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, then he said to him, So shall your offspring be.
On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, To your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates.
These verses document God's promise to Abraham-Sarah union, spoken to Abraham on behalf of the union.
God interacted with Abraham regarding his promise to Abraham-Sarah union.
Although Sarah was not physically present during the interaction, she was party to the interactions.
God relied on Abraham's leadership of the union and seamless communication with Sarah
to ensure that Abraham and Sarah shared the information and commitments seamlessly.
What did we learn in this Bible study? In the call of Abraham-Sarah, God spoke to Abraham regarding a mission and a promise for Abraham-Sarah union.
He gave directions to Abraham, spoke promises to him, and received commitment from him.
However, his words spoke of a mission and promise for Abraham-Sarah as a union.
God relied on Abraham's leadership of the union and seamless communication with Sarah
to ensure Abraham and Sarah shared the information and commitments seamlessly.
Please join us again in our continuing discussion of living in the image of God.
Thank you.
God bless you.
This is the first time actually relating this passage to Jesus Christ. Because I know the history online, but I've not paid attention to that last one you said. Through this, he will bring salvation to the whole human race.
Yeah, all people on earth will be blessed through your offspring. Yes. That is exactly, that's the promise of the Messiah.
Yes. Wow. So, it was really there in the beginning of the Old Testament. And then, No, that was the message I got today.
Well, I'm happy because that is part of the message, really, very important. That's the whole thing about sending Christ or sending the Son of God to the world.
Mm-hmm.
That was, the promise was made there, which is several generations before it happened.
Yes. Very interesting.
And for me, the passages, or the whole series is about God speaking to one of the partners, not necessarily to each of the partners on the same content. So he would speak to one, mostly maybe the head of the household, and hopefully the head of the household would seamlessly, that is the key word right there, seamlessly deliver that same message to the partner, because when God speaks to one, it's meant for the union, not necessarily for that person, and hopefully that person would not interpret it in the person's own words to suit the person, but seamlessly as God provided the message.
Absolutely, you're right. And these are some of the things that marvels you about God, because his choice of Abraham, later on we will see, in fact it's in the next Bible study, we'll see the strength of the union between Abraham and Sarah. Maybe that was the reason God chose them, I don't know. But they have a really special relationship that grew over a very long time. So it appears that he knew that the relationship between these two people is such that they will illustrate this concept. So he used them essentially to teach us about husband-wife relationships and interactions. That yes, this is a promise for the union. I don't mean he never told Abraham, okay, bring your wife when you are coming. No, not necessarily, because Abraham will do his job, not just listening to the message, but conveying it to the wife exactly the way he should. And we will see later on that it's not just to the head of household. God also talks to the wife. Delivers a message for the family through the wife, and then, it has to be carried out and gives instruction. In one case, he gave instruction to Abraham to carry out a message that he had delivered through Sarah. Thank you for being with us in this Bible study, and we hope that you will join us in our continuing discussion of living in the image of God.
God bless you.